the one thing I really want to say on this podcast, I've been saying to everyone who will listen to me, there's never been an easier time in the history of mankind to set an IGFA world record if you're age 16 and under than right now. And every second we move forward, it will be harder and harder.
This is the Connected by Water podcast, fueled by Papa's Pilar Rum, who remind us never to be a spectator. And protected by Starbright, where it's always Starbright season. Special thanks to our sponsors, Seaward Systems, Holokai, Parchview, and Lingchini for their great support of our show. This episode was recorded in our Seaward Systems studio, located on the eastern edge of the Florida Everglades. So you fished back here before?
Yeah, I
right?
have.
Like a lot?
A lot.
I was pretty shocked because you're like, oh, I'm coming from Palm Beach, because I only drive down to the IGFA. Like, basically, it almost sounded like I don't stop anywhere in between. I just go to work.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, that's just for work.
Okay.
Not for fishing.
All right.
I'll drive anywhere to go fish.
I like it. I like it. And so both you work for the IGFA, which is a beloved organization. Of anyone's watched this show ever, at least once. We probably talk about the IGFA in every episode. I mean, my history of the IGFA is deep. It goes way back, like since I was like younger than you. And I've told the story on the show like so many times, so I don't even know if it's worth like going back into it. Like, you haven't heard it?
No, go for it.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, right? So when I was 17, I was a senior in high school at Gibbons, and this is before internet, before anything, when you had to go knock on doors if you wanted anything done. So the IGFA used to be in like a library kind of thing, like off Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano, like years ago. Very small place. This is before they built the whole museum thing and all that. And it just looked like an old school public library. And I went and knocked on the door, and Mike Leach answers the door. And I'm like, hey, Mr. Leach, my name is Dennis. I'm a fish artist. I'd love to get involved with the IGFA. And I had like all my artwork underneath my arm, and and so he's like, oh, come on. He was kind of more than happy to like, help me out. And so we laid all my artwork, and he gave me a chance. So he allowed me to like get involved with the breakers, auctions, and the different things and everything like that. I sold my first 2 fish paintings. I was still in high school, senior year, right? I sold my first 2 fish paintings to Tread Barta. Awesome. Out of those auctions, and then he commissioned me to do 2 more like after that, and so then the rest is history. Is that's as far back as I go with the IGFA. So I always want to pay it forward and and include it, and now we do all this work with the IGFA, and I always tell Adrian and Jason, it's like dream come true. So
it's so funny to hear that story, because like on the flip side, I started IGFA in 2020, like right after COVID, and for the first year and a half, Adrian opposite kept being like, oh, Dennis this, Dennis Friel that, and I was like, who is this guy? Because I hadn't seen any of your stuff. And then like I didn't really get to meet you until I started working with the Jimmy Johnson tournament. And then I came back to the IGFA. I was like, oh yeah, me and Dennis are pals. And Adrian was like, yeah, see, and I was
that was easy.
Exactly,
for sure. And you're my pal now too.
So it all comes together.
Let me formally introduce you guys. So I have Emily Hanzlik, right, which I will preface this by saying this is how I've been describing you to everybody. So I'm going to describe you to the audience the same way. You are 20 years old, and you hold 72 IGFA world records.
That is right.
I'm going to repeat that. You are a female that's 20 years old, and you hold 72 IGFA world records. So
and counting.
And counting. So we just hung out at the Starbright Project Sea Safe Clean Water Collective up there in Grant, Walkeria, Florida, at the old fish house, and we got to know each other, and I came away extremely impressed, and I think people today at the end of this episode will also come away extremely impressed. So
we had a great time.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Of course.
And Zack Bellapinga,
that's her,
right? Is here today. We're good buddies, as you just heard, and so you're
angler recognition manager,
right? So you're in charge of a lot of different things. You do a lot of tournaments and a lot of different things. So you wear a bunch of hats. So we're going to go through all that today. So I just wanted the crowd to kind of get the lay of the land here. But before we get started, I am going to bring up this week's Starbright Project Sea Safe do-gooder, and that's Brandon McGraw. And he is also not only the do-gooder of this episode, he is also this year's Project Sea Safe Captain of the Year, which is really cool. So way to go, Brandon. And he is also a habitual team do-gooder. He has sent in countless videos doing do-gooder deeds, and Captain Brandon McGraw owns Space Coast Fishing Charters and is not just your ordinary fishing guide. He is a certified Hells Bay Boatworks Pro Guide, a former Army medic, and a retired Orlando firefighter with a lifelong passion for fishing and a deep connection to the Space Coast. So with that kind of resume, it's no wonder that he cares so much for being a great steward of conservation. So congrats, Brandon. We are so proud of you. So that is this week's Starbright Project Sea Safe do-gooder. And remember, folks, if you want to nominate a do-gooder, you could do so by finding us or Corey or Derek or anyone at Project Sea Safe and send us a message and review that do-gooder. But chances are, if you're nominating them, we will nominate them as well. So, and don't forget, people, when you're watching this, you're listening to this, watching it on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to this episode. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or what's the Waypoint Collective, the Outdoor Collective, or on Spotify, just go ahead and subscribe to us. Please support this show. We're trying to bring good old clean living to everybody here. So, Connect by Water podcast. Let's talk a little bit about. I'm sorry, Zach. I need to jump into these world records right off the bat. So, it was
She's
really
the star of the show.
Listen, when she
Listen.
she walks in here with a fishing rod in hand. And she's, oh, can I keep this somewhere? Yeah, absolutely. And she's like, well, I fish in here all the time. So I caught a world record snakehead in here, right? And then John goes, well, what pound? She goes, I don't even know. I own all of them. I own all the snakehead records. So take me through your record hunting ways.
Okay, so originally, way back when, my dad and my grandpa actually tracked down all the records that we could possibly obtain in Florida. But they realized that the men's records were a little bit difficult.
Okay.
So when I was like 12, my dad was like, well, you like fishing. So like, I may as well have you go do it for me.
Okay.
So he started tracking the ones that I could get. And the first one I ever submitted was actually the butterfly peacock bass, which Zach actually, well, not Zach at the time, but it got declined.
Don't get me started on the butterfly.
Your first one got rejected?
Because it's not an actual fish. They're all hybrids in the state of Florida. So
This
is
changed,
a long
right?
topic. No, this is a deep topic of conversation. Yeah. This will take up half this podcast. But basically, so as it stands currently, there's no formal, at least scientific study that has determined the actual scientific species of fish specifically related to peacock bass here in South Florida. So there's 3 different subspecies of peacocks that were introduced here by FWC. I want to say back in the 80s, well before my time. The issue is that we don't know over the course of 30 years whether or not those species have interbred and created a new separate species here in South Florida. Okay. The way our IGFA records work for line class specifically is that we hold them for the species itself, right? So it has to scientifically be that species of fish in order to set that record. So we had people setting records for a period of time, and then 2016, 2017, just the time she said this, somebody approached us who had been doing it for a while and was like, hey, we don't really know what species of fish is here. You guys should look into it. And then what we're able to uncover is we actually don't know what species of peacock it is here. You could assume that it's the butterfly peacock, but there's 3 others that it could potentially be, or it could be interbreeding. So we put a halt on accepting them from the state of Florida just because of that. And the goal hopefully is for someone, ideally FWC, to take on a study. I've pitched the idea around a ton to do a citizen science program where we just get a bunch of kids and people interested to go out and collect fin clip samples. Okay. We run a DNA test a genetic test on 500 fin clip samples from various regions, go over to Naples, to Southeast Florida. Lake
Osborne, Miami.
The thing with the IGFA is we do everything based off the scientific community. So it just needs to be a formal study that's published in a scientific paper, whether it's, done through the government, done through FWC, or whether it's done through private university or anything like that. We just need something to point to. And we, as a nonprofit, it's not something we're able to fund ourselves. So there's been a lot of back and forth.
Perhaps Connected by Water can step in and help out.
Listen, it's something that since since the day I started.
This is news to me.
It's
Like,
been
I understand the different species part of it, but I didn't understand that you weren't recognizing them or.
Well, I wouldn't even say we're not recognizing. Like, we have records from 2017 that are still pending, and I still have people that come in with their kids and hand me applications. It's something I hold on to them, because if a study comes out and the study's like, yeah, all these fish are butterfly.
Retroactive.
Yeah, exactly. We'd be like, oh.
So there's still hope for 73 here, right?
My fish has been pending.
Has been pending.
I'm not proud of it. This is a really great start to the podcast. We picked the one topic that I'm really not that proud of.
Listen, it's what had to start.
No, it's not. It's about doing the right thing. You should be proud of it. To be honest with you, it speaks to the reputation of the organization.
It's been a thorn in my side though, because I want someone to just take it on so we can get an answer. I'm a kind of guy, like, I want answers, especially since I know it's out there and how easy it would be to do. It's just a financial thing that.
Well, gosh darn it, Zach, we're going to get to the bottom of this, because you just lit a fire in me that I didn't realize this was a thing.
Yeah,
for the IGFA.
We got to figure out what they are.
We're going to get you that record. We're going to get you that record. I'm telling you.
Unless it's the wrong species.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So what do we got? So you say it's a butterfly.
Yeah.
But you're saying it might be something else.
So there's the two species I know of, and I'm going to butcher names. I want to say it's Melanie peacock is one of them. And there's another, the name is escaping. Butterfly is obviously the main species, right? But the introduction, there's two other species. And it's a thing where peacocks as a whole, this is going down a rabbit hole, but I deal with obviously like Temensis.
It's one of my favorite fish.
Which is speckled peacock.
I'm heading down to Rio Marie.
Are you going to go fish with
I'm going to go fish with Rodrigo.
That's going to be the coolest
next year.
Coolest. He's the man.
But that's a completely different species.
No, yeah, but even with those
Jurassic peacocks,
those fish, like the speckleds down there, the black stripes, the Orinoco's, like visually identifying them based off of characteristics is very difficult. Like you need to haven't studied them for years and years. I mean, there's easy visuals between like an Orinoco and a speckled based off of the blotches on the side of the fish, things like that. So what's happening is with these fish in Florida, as time's progressed, years have passed, the visual characteristics of the butterfly have kind of like morphed in them, so to speak. So where, and this is again going back 6-7 years ago at this point to 2017 when they really like dove into this from an IGFA perspective. They're looking at the applications we have and they're like, well, I can't point to something on the side of this fish that would tell me that's a butterfly. Like it's
so even the photographs.
So that's the problem. Yeah. So that's and then we get
sticky,
and it's across the board for the IGFA. We take a lot of time. At least in my office, when an application comes in to make sure it's the right species. We work with ichthyologists, but a lot of the time it's like, it's myself, it's Logan who's helping me in my office, and then Jason obviously is like the end all be all.
Right.
He's been doing it for a very long time. But we take a lot of time to make sure that, like, if you're applying for a record, it's not just going under the table, and we're making sure that that's the right species of fish. Right. And like, there's ones on the surface that are easy, like, oh, that's bonefish. Yeah, that's definitely a bonefish. But then you go down to, we get all tackle records from Japan. That's for like, pink browed unicorn fish or something crazy like that. I guess I got to look into this one and make sure it's the right species. So
yeah, it's funny because years ago we had Jack on and we were talking about that, and he was bringing up a lot of obscure things that I didn't even think about. I was like, whoa, that's right.
In 5 years, I've learned so much about species in Japan, Australia that you would never even think of.
Yeah.
Like a guy sent in an application one time from Australia for a fish and just said blue bastard on the application. I was like, well, that's not a real thing. And I looked it up and it very much is.
Come on.
Yeah, and they love catching them down there. It's like a really popular, like, like if you just ask somebody on the street who fishes, but blue bastard, they'd be like, yeah, I catch it all the time.
But do you know enough about it to where there might be a butterfly blue bastard?
Yeah, that's it'll open up a whole can of worms. It'll never end.
A whole big species of blue bastards.
It'll never end.
So you catch this fish, you think you got a world record. I mean, or what they say no.
Yeah.
And you're 12?
Yeah, I was 12.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, actually,
heartbroken?
It took a bit for it to like say that it was pending, and it's not like they declined it. So it said it was like pending, and they said we're gonna work on it. So
that's even worse.
It's not even like I could be heartbroken. Like,
job, Zach.
There's like a small but kind of large percentage of my job where I'm breaking bad news to people, and sometimes it's kids, and it's definitely the worst part of my job. But it's part of the record fishing process that has to be done.
It's my favorite part about coming to work.
Not to jump too far, but I've rejected one of our records before. Yeah. Actually, pretty recently. Like, well, not in the grand scheme, like 2 years ago. Because you submitted 2 bass. I'm trying to remember what it was, but I think it was 2 bass. You caught them on the same day or something.
I thought we were talking about the other one.
Maybe I've done 2 then.
It was 2.
Okay.
But the bass one was my fault.
Was it?
Yeah, I submitted 2 stripers on the same day.
So the rule is you can only submit 1 application per record category or line class on the same day, right? So I don't know if this is exactly what it was, but like, let's say she went up and she caught 2 striped bass on 16-pound test and one was larger than the other. You can't submit both applications and have them both approved. Only the larger of the two would get approved.
Oh, okay.
Because to keep people from coming to us with, I caught 50, especially if a record's vacant.
Yeah.
And they're just catching it 1 ounce heavier, to send in like 10, 15 applications at the same time and then get 10, 15 records.
Yeah, it can be a little hairy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I had to put in place. And I remember that day because she had started working with us. So, volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked in my office and I was just like shaking my head. She's like, what? And I was like, you know what you did wrong? She's like, no, I actually don't. Then she looked at it and she's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So how long did it take you to get a record after that?
After the first one?
Yeah, after the first one got rejected by Zach.
I actually don't really know, but I started, so me and my dad's plan was to go and get like 10 records every year. We took that as like a manageable goal, which sounds crazy to most people to get 10 a year, but we were going after fish that we knew we could get. So like after the bass, when they were like, this is pending, we don't know what we're going to do with it. We're like, we're going to move to the grass carp because we're like, we can do this. We can knock them all out. So we just started going fishing, and there was a canal up on my house that was like 5 minutes away, and we would just fish in that canal and just pull out like 20-pound grass carp. And we just started like slaying them on the side of the road. And there's this like, I got a funny story about one of them.
Please do tell.
One of the times we went fishing, it was just like after school one day. I was still in like middle school, and it was just one of those things where you're like messing around. So I was fishing outside, like inside the truck through the window. And we were just messing around on like 6-pound test and just a little bread ball. And then it starts stripping me out. And I'm like, oh, wait, like this isn't a little tiny
on a bread
carp.
ball and a little gold hook?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it sure is.
So it starts stripping out. My dad's like, Emily, get out of the truck. What are you doing? I was like, well, it can't be that big. So then we got it and it was like 30 pounds. And I was like, oh, we shouldn't have been inside the truck with this.
Wow.
And then in the photo, it's just me like holding this carp and like all these people that pulled off on the side of the road just like staring at me like, what is this girl doing right now?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point I
was hooked.
I mean, like, so you 10 a year.
Yeah.
As a teenager, basically, right?
I've slowed down a little bit, obviously, because this would be my 8th year right now.
Okay.
But now that I'm trying to do more tournaments and stuff for the clubs that I'm in, I'm getting a little more focused on that.
Okay.
And once you start doing all the records that you can, there's only so many you can do, which is like the snakehead. I cleared out all the snakehead and the carp, and then that's when I started getting into fly fishing because I was like, I need more records.
Right.
So that's
great.
That was the next category to go after.
So I mean, Heather Harkavy's probably been one to look up to in this regard, right? And she's always been a good record hunter, like a female record hunter growing up, right? And especially on fly.
Yeah.
Right? So
one of the ladies that Roberta,
mm-hmm.
She was one of the ladies that was always there because she's also in the IGFA. So we were always really close. And
that's great.
She lives in Miami, so she was always like, Emily, you need to submit more records. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh.
She's cool because she kind of like retired for a bit from doing it. And
yeah.
She picked back up again like 2 years ago. So I had seen her name for the first 2 years I was working there. Like her husband, Marty Rostige, and their son, Martini, I think Marty has like 450 world records or something crazy like that. Yeah. He's one of the, he has one of the largest total number of records in our database. But she had a ton. She had like 200 or something. And then she stopped. Like around like pre-COVID, and then she didn't do anything for 2 years, and then I got a call from Marty, who I'd come familiar with, and he was like, Roberta's gonna start doing records again. And then she submits like 7 or 8 at a time. They do it a little differently than Emily. One thing that I think is really cool about Emily is most of them, not all of her stuff, at least until very recently, is like local here in South Florida.
Okay.
Because she's been a high school student for the majority of the time, and like she's not flying to all these places. Not to take anything away from that, but like Roberta will plan a trip and like, I'm gonna go to Texas to chase after gar, and she'll come back with 7 applications. But Emily's like, I'm gonna drive down. The funny thing about Emily's records, like if you look through our database, like for like grass carp or any of those things, like there's fancy lakes, not fancy, but like lakes or like names of river systems, and it's always just like Canal D7, like West Palm Beach.
So what he was getting,
C14.
Yeah, like-
no, so he actually got mad at me one of the times because I put like drainage canal ditch.
It was so many words, and I was like, I'm not putting this in there.
He was like, Emily,
just
this
tell me the
can't go
town.
in there. And I was like, well, like it is. It's a drainage ditch. Like, what do you want
Just
me?
tell me what town you caught it in, and I'll use that instead. And Adrian was getting mad because the book, we print everything out, and like the length of the location of where the fish is caught is like, if it's too long, it messes up its formatting.
Yeah,
Plus,
it's tabs.
and
Yeah.
it's like, you got to cut these shorter. And I was like, I'll talk to her about it.
Oh my god.
And like everybody else's was like perfect length, and mine's like 20 words long.
The timing on her records, though, worked out really well in the grand scheme. So originally, IGFA line class records were not segregated based off sex. It was just one record for cross board. So two,
Oh,
sex.
really?
Yeah. And
When did that change?
very, like 2017, I want to say, or 2016 or 2017.
Oh,
like,
wow,
right when she
really
started doing
recently.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
it was probably 2 years before I started.
Oh.
So it opened up a ton of obviously it vacated the
What
majority
about
of
youth?
women's line class. So that just got launched, but at least the junior line class records
Okay.
just got launched a month ago. I want to talk about that at length. I don't know if
You do?
Great. Well, yeah. So that's
That'd be great.
yeah. So not,
mean,
not
especially-
to sidetrack too much, but yes.
No, listen, sidetrack.
No, it's fine.
We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
But no, because I do want to talk about that, especially since you're like the youth angling
Mhm.
instructor, right?
Yeah.
That's like your official title at IGFA.
Yeah, so I'm only part-time there, but yeah, I do a lot of work with their youth and their education program, but I also have a charter for like kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she runs that herself. It's not like she takes kids fishing.
Very
Oh.
cool.
Because we do a lot of summer camps and stuff that has like 30 kids and it's like 3 days long.
Mhm.
But I was noticing that like kids need more like one-on-one time because I mean you can teach 30 kids how to fish, but sometimes they just need a little bit more help.
Mhm.
So I was thinking like most captains and stuff, like they'll take kids, some of them will, but the other ones just kind of like give them a rod and have them catch catfish.
Yeah.
So I started taking them to a marina that I fished since I was little and just showing them like actually how to get into it. And it's a great place for like other sea life too. So it's like you can show them about other things while fishing. So they like actually learn more about it.
That is really great.
And this isn't just like a marina. She'll come back in the office and be like, look at this bonefish I caught at this big rig. It's not just like
I mean, it is.
so.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. So it's like, are you involved with any of the junior stuff that they're doing? I
So
mean, I don't
that-
know, it's all new, right?
That just started April 1st.
Okay.
So we
April 1st
Yeah,
April
that's-
for junior line class
Yes,
world records.
April 1st.
So I thought this was already a thing.
no the pitch.
This is like brand new.
So we've had junior.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So to go back and kind of give like an overview of
Wow.
from at least junior record.
That's cool.
No, it is. So we had originally held junior weight records, right? So a junior angler in the eyes of the IGFA is 16 and under, and we had them separated out between junior and small fry. So small fry was anything up to 10, including 10, and then
Mhm.
junior was 11 to 16. So for all the species we hold line class records for, which is like 230 and change right now, there were a junior male and female weight record and a small fry male and female weight record. We have had a lot of pressure from international organizations. So we work a lot with like JGFA, Japanese Game Fish Association, GFAA, Game Fish Association of Australia and New Zealand.
Do they keep records?
They keep records extensively. And Australia, GFAA has, I would say, in comparison to the IGFA, the closest in terms of like a detailed record system that's been going on
Right.
for years. They're actually,
I mean, you guys are the authority.
Yeah, but they're well, so
And
we're the
this is
authority-
what I've been telling people all
no,
these years.
no. So
Like,
we're the authority on
IGFA.
world records.
Yeah.
They hold Australian records. So it's like, you know how the US has state record programs? Imagine that. And Australia does have state record programs for like Western Australia, the different provinces they have down there. But the GFAA has been managing it. They're actually an older organization than the IGFA. The president of the GFAA actually just found this out the other day, was the one who actually told Michael Lerner, who's the IGFA's founder, that
Right.
he should look into forming an international fishing association to keep the world's records, because everyone was doing it, inside the US, inside Australia, things
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
That's getting way off track, but
There's no track.
no,
There's
I know.
track to that.
I'm trying to get. I want to tell people about these junior records. I'm very excited about them. So we had pressure from, I'd say pressure. Obviously we like to think about everything that we do. We have a board of trustees. We have committees that in each department. So we're in a ton of places, the IGFA, conservation, education, and for angler recognition, which is my department, we have a committee that approves any decisions that we want to make. As the employee there, I present them with a concept or an idea of something that we want to add in. So it could be as simple as adding a new species.
Mhm.
It's not something that like someone's like emails us and they're like, hey,
Like
I want.
butterfly peacock.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not someone's like, hey, I want you to add this species I like to catch in my backyard as a new record category. It needs to go through like an extensive process. So for years, they've been asking us, we want junior line class records. And for us as a nonprofit, it would have added, I think we did the math, it was like 40 or so pages to our record book, which is like 30 to 40,000 extra dollars a year just to print the record book. So the solution that we came up with was we can add them, but we're going to keep them in a digital format. So it's not going to add to the book. We'll put a QR code in this day of modern technology. We'll put a QR code in the book. You scan the QR code, it'll take you to our database, IGFA.org, which will have all the records listed there. So once we got over that hurdle, it was kind of really straightforward. I mean, we're just mirroring our current line class records. So they're split between men and women's. We actually, before we did line class records, we have an all tackle length release category that we started in 2011. It's where you catch a fish, measure it on an IGFA measuring device, take a picture and release it. It's the part of our record program where we want to promote conservation the most. Obviously we do across the board, but that's kind of like that. We introduced that program to provide people with a chance to get records for fish that you didn't want to necessarily kill or harvest. And we had expanded that to junior recently in 2022. And when we made that expansion, we made it one record combined for junior. So 16 and under. We didn't split it between small fry and junior. And then so we did that here with the line class. So any records or any species that we hold line class or typical class records for at the IGFA, we now hold junior line or typical class records for between male and female ages 16 and under. We wanted to avoid certain species, again, from a conservation viewpoint. So we don't want kids, we don't promote kids harvesting marlin, things like that. So any species where, for example, tarpon, we don't, want kids to be.
Yeah, because you're going to get a 20-pound tarpon and it hasn't been beaten.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for I think the number I did it very recently, it was April 1st. It's still over 200 species we have open and available right now.
Okay.
I've gotten maybe 7 applications so far. It's only been a month and a half. Only one has been, it's getting ready to be approved. It's pending right now.
Yeah. So, and to be clear, we're promoting those as please catch and release.
Yeah, that's always the goal.
So I want to make that clear to the.
So for a junior record, it's in our rules. Our IGFA angling rules is kind of like the genesis and the core of our organization. And obviously those rules go hand in hand with world record fishing. And Emily knows them front and back because she's had to do it for so long. And one of the rules that we have, which I think is great, is that junior anglers can submit records where they can weigh the fish on the boat and release it. They don't have to harvest the fish.
Okay.
So one of our IGFA angling rules, or for world record requirements, is that the fish needs to be weighed on dry land in order to qualify. The reason behind that is if you try and weigh a fish on a boat, the boat's going to be rocking. You're not going to be able to get a solid number. But, and this decision was made well before my time there. But the thought process is, you don't want to strip that opportunity for a kid to get a record, to get into fishing, especially if he does everything right in terms of the angling rules, fights and lands the fish himself based off of that specific rule. So that category, right, they're competing on an even playing field of they all are able to weigh the fish on the boat and release it. So that helps a ton, especially, like I said, if we eliminate certain species that have conservation minded viewpoint on it, like, billfish, sharks, tarpon, and then we're also promoting the ability to weigh the fish on the boat and release it. It's all encompassing. And it's been great that the 7 applications that we've gotten have all been for fish that are released. So we're batting 100.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
right off the bat.
1,000.
1,000, sorry.
Mr. Sports Podcast.
Yeah. I was going to say we're 100%. Call myself. But so we're batting 1,000 off the bat. And it's been great. But
send you back to AAA.
Exactly. But we just got to get the word out there. I mean, we do a lot of stuff on social, and we make announcement on our email list. And the feedback when we made the announcement was fantastic. I even had local, like, Miami guys, like Jimmy David, came straight into my office the day we sent out the email, made the announcement April 1st. He's like, because his son Chris has the junior, I want to say junior small fry blue marlin record.
Okay.
And he was like, what does he need to do?
There's no marlin on the.
No, but for every other fish, so mahi, king mackerel, he does. He has the weight record. The junior, before we had the line class category, I think 2021, he set the small fry weight record over, and I'm gonna say Cape Verde or the Azores.
I mean, you can't get a better fishing family than the David.
His middle name's Marlin. I'm pretty sure it's it's Chris Marlin. Yeah. So he's a really cool kid. But and he actually won junior angler at our IGFA Open tournament in Costa Rica. Top junior angler this past March.
That's outstanding.
So, yeah.
No surprise though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so he's like, we have, obviously once the summer comes up, we have infinite time to go out and catch all these fish off of Miami.
Right.
It's like, yeah, please go. There's the one thing I really want to say on this podcast, I've been saying to everyone who will listen to me, there's never been an easier time in the history of mankind to set an IGFA world record if you're age 16 and under than right now. And every second we move forward, it'll be harder and harder, especially once people start submitting applications and start coming. And that's kind of what she was hinting at earlier, where it's like, I filled out all the ones that I could easily get. And now it's a little harder. I have to kind of, once those records get set and the mark keeps going up and up and up, it gets harder and harder.
Are you seeing a lot of your kids like with the desire to do this, to go after records?
Like the ones that we teach in summer camp?
Yeah.
There's some.
Or even the ones that you're teaching on the side too.
So I feel like before, since it was just the weight ones,
Right.
like they just had the weight records, it was a little bit harder. So like they didn't want to go after the adult ones because they knew that you're going against adults, so it's a little bit harder. But I haven't had any kids since April 1st.
I guess it's still new, yeah.
So
Pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's a great opportunity.
So this record hasn't been approved yet. So all signs are pointing to it being approved, but I can't say anything certain until it actually gets like a seal of approval. But we had an education trip where they went to Cabo, and they taught some kids how to fish down in Cabo. And one of the kids that were in that camp caught 8-pound, 1-ounce Pacific Jack Reval on 16-pound test. And the line tested out. So, I mean, all signs point, again, nothing's official until it's official in our world. But, that would be the first one where an education camp or something that we did through education is directly translating into a record being submitted, which is great because the team did a great job. They came to me and they said, we're going to go out in Cabo. What species are available and what do we have to do? I gave them pre-tested line from us, and they went out and did it. I mean, that's a big part of record fishing, which I'm sure Emily would love to talk about some more too, because she probably has so much Andy
pre-tested line.
Yeah, so actually Andy, they make tons of different line, but their main one for when you're targeting your records, your main one that you're going to want to use is the tournament Andy, because it's going to test out. I've only had one issue before where like my 2-pound like slightly over tested, but it was still in the range, but every other line will test perfectly. Like when you use any other line, you will have to worry, even if it's like normal mono, say it's 12-pound, it'll still slightly over test, and then you'll get bumped up.
I was talking to Adrian about this recently when Adrian and I were fishing up there at the Starbright event, and he was fishing with it was like a red like line.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I
gave it to him.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I got this from work. And I'm like, do you like the red? I mean, I've never really seen red line necessarily like that, like it was really red. Yeah. And then he's like, but this line tests out like perfectly. It's kind of like the thing with this particular line. And he's told me, that's starting to become more of a thing.
Yeah.
Where people want it to break at 12.
It's a huge thing in my
yeah.
Honestly, the way I put it to people is like, especially when you get really into record chasing, like when you're in Emily's level of, how much the knowledge behind it. If you have a goal, like let's say you eye up a record and you're like, I'm going after this record. You already know what to do in terms of all the other aspects. You know how to weigh the fish, what pictures you need to take, how to keep your line sample and stuff to submit with your application. It kills me, and I hate for you to go out there, do every step right, catch the right fish that you're looking for. Everything is perfect. Then you send it to me. I test the line of the machine. It overtests to another line class category.
Yeah.
And your fish doesn't qualify, and then your record's rejected. So if you can ahead of time prepare that aspect of it as well in terms of using the right line. Not to say that one company, she mentioned Andy. Andy's great. Momoy makes an IGFA class line. Like there's options out there. And again, just because a line overtests for what it's stated on the spool doesn't mean that it's not good for the next line class up, right? So like, let's say you're going after an 8-pound line class record and you send me in a sample of 6-pound and it breaks at 7.95. That's good for the 8-pound class. It's not bad line. It's just every line fits into, I guess, like a kind of a mold, so to speak, in terms of where it is. And after doing it, I've tested so many samples of so many different products. You kind of know, like if I get Mason 6 breaks, like I play 7.7 to like 7.95. It's always going to be in there. And the fly guys want it to be 6, so they'll send it in for 6. They want it to be 6. I'll be like, here it is again at 7. Like it's just the way the product works.
So when you've done this show as long as I have, we started this in like 2019, so we're going on like 6 years of doing this podcast. And the guys that I've had on the show, like all the guys that I've had on this show are like creme de la creme, like the best anglers in the world, and especially for big game, mostly is what we have on here. They all swear like no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you are fishing IGFA regulation.
Oh yeah,
everything, because you never know.
You never know, and that's it's so hard. It's so hard. So I always break out record fishermen into separate categories. Right? There's the people like Emily who set a goal, know what to do, done it before, can plan ahead, know what to bring, know what to do, and then there's the average everyday person that's just out fishing and they
Right.
catch a fish of a lifetime. It's significantly harder for that person to check off all the boxes in terms of our angling rules, just because it's not in their nature how they fish, for
Yeah.
example, right? So like,
You're going to get your canal fisherman, especially,
100%.
that's not going to be
Yeah.
thinking about that all the time.
And the biggest ones that we see a lot of times, like for example, for the kids, for junior records, is the dad, picking up the rod, hooking the fish, and then handing it to their kid.
Yeah.
Which, again, as a fisherman, as someone that was grown up doing it, like it's totally understandable. I'm not someone to say, like that's wrong. But in terms of like the IGFA angling rules and the kind of like the ethics of the sport of fishing, it goes against what we stand for, because that kid didn't necessarily hook that fish. He was just handed the fish to him.
Rules are rules.
Exactly.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
So,
right?
so it's tough sometimes when I'm the bearer of bad news, but you have to kind of uphold. If we don't uphold our rules, we fall apart.
That's and tournaments, same way. You got your rules in the tournament. I mean, the same thing. Even if the fish measures out a half inch too short, it's not. You can't include it. It's just. There was a situation where a very famous basketball player was in a tournament in a very famous city in New Jersey, and
I remember.
And,
I wasn't there.
But he looked at it and he said, "Okay, you're right. It did." And he was like, "Yeah, it didn't measure out. We're not going to give that guy a break in the tournament just because of who he is."
I joke that they brought me in the year after that because that's why I mess with Brick.
But he did look at it and he did. He's like, "Oh yeah, okay, you're right."
That's the way it goes. But no, so
he agreed. He knows how it is.
And so our angling rules, it's cool because it's unique to the IGFA. And we're actually recently since I've been there, we started up the IGFA tournament relations program, which has been great for me. I grew up, for some background, I grew up fishing in New Jersey as a kid. That's kind of like where I cut my teeth.
Where?
Cape May. So I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and I grew up in South Jersey. I spent every summer down there. Like the school would get out on a Friday, and I'd be there Saturday morning, and I wouldn't leave until the day before school started again in August. And so, I grew up fishing tournaments like the Mid-Atlantic 500, and I was in the marina hanging around those guys' mouths. Is what I loved. Like it just was my passion, was fishing tournaments. I just love the concept behind it. I love that you got teams, guys on teams competing for a goal. And so when I came down and started this job, I realized that like the majority of these major tournaments, IGFA angling rules is the core of their rules. There may be a degree of separation. In a lot of cases, it's hook and hand. But at their core, it's IGFA angling rules. And we're all about continually promoting our brand, trying to get more people educated about IGFA angling rules. So what we're doing recently is we're promoting angling rules with these tournaments by providing myself as support, right? So if these tournaments partner with the IGFA, I'm able to, whether it be over the phone or through email, or in some instances like Jimmy Johnson, I'm flying in, just to be there to kind of assist tournament directors in case they're like, hey, we're seeing this. What are the, IGFA, what do you guys think about that? Which is cool. And then at the same time, it expands our reach international. We just did a tournament, joined the program from Mauritius, which is cool, in the Indian Ocean. Like, it's just getting the IGFA name out there. More people are learning about IGFA angling rules. And at the same time, it's promoting our brand, right, which is huge for us. But I also think it kind of like promotes the core of like what tournament fishing is, which is like, you have to have these set of core rules to follow. Like everybody is competing in an even playing field. You wouldn't go out and play a round of golf, and not be like, well, I'm not going to follow that rule because I don't agree with that. Then why are you even there? Like, why are you even doing it at that point? So that's just my thought process behind it.
Let me ask you something, Emily. I'm curious. So you grew up around here?
Yes.
Right? So you South Florida girl.
Born and raised Loxahatchee. Same house, all 20 years.
Love it. I love it. So, all right. So you born and raised, you've been fishing ever since you're a little kid. Your family raised you that way. You have a passion for this. Like you embrace this like wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
You're working for the IGFA now. Are you in school?
Yeah, I'm going to school at USF for marine biology.
For marine biology. All right. So this is your path in life, right? Where do you see your future heading with all this? Do you have that mapped out right now, or are you kind of leaving some things open?
So I know for sure that I want to go into marine biology. My plan, I'm really passionate, obviously. So I want to use that passion. I feel like people that have passion for certain things should use it. I feel like a lot of people lose confidence in it and be like, I should just go like work at some like desk job.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to get it into like water quality because when you're born and raised in Loxahatchee, you're right next to the sugarcane fields. You see how it is directly impacting everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been something that like bothered me because it's like I see it. I see it every single year. I see the way that the red tide affects everything, and it's right there. So it's like something that I can be like directly affected by and passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's like that's something that you have to actually have, because when it's something you're passionate about, it's not like you're working. It's something that I want to actually do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's interesting too, because where you say you grew up is so important to the lifeblood of, we're right here. We're here.
Yeah.
We're on the eastern edge of the Everglades.
Exactly.
Right? And we're kind of proud of that. And I grew up here too. And, we talk about it at length on the show, the episode about the Everglades and about, listen, we're connected by water, right? This is the name of the show.
Literally.
Connected by water, and the entire state of Florida is connected by water. Just looking at the state and growing up out here out west, especially, when we call it out west, like West Proud, really gave me a good perspective on how important this area is, not only to just the wetlands and the Everglades and all that, but also to the reefs and the oceans and how it all kind of is very cyclical. So when you talk about what you're studying about with the red tide, and it's important to understand what the difference is between what's man-made and what's not, what's natural occurrences, or what's natural but fighting against what man has made.
You'll always have to.
So there's always a weird dynamic, because there are a lot of conservation groups out there. Some are doing great things, some are not doing great things, some are whatever, and it's important to, I think, people to understand that. I think you take everything with a little bit of grain of salt. It's not always as cut and dry as everyone thinks it is.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of people are trying to do what they think is best. And there's a lot of different information that they can be gathering. So it's just like a really hard thing. But I mean, it's definitely something that needs to be worked upon.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm glad to hear that you're USF, huh?
Yeah.
And marine biology. That's absolutely outstanding. So you work a lot with the youth, and you do a lot with the programs, the IGFA, and are you going to start getting involved more with the tournament? You said you want to start tournament fishing more and getting involved on that level, right? Explain that to me.
So I've always been land based. I didn't have a boat for the longest time. I just got gifted a little skiff, but for the longest time, I always like that. That's what I've grown. I was fishing on the pier when I was 5.
That's how I grew up.
Catching bait for everybody.
Oh, it's a land fish.
So it's like, that's just, you're used to it.
Urban angler or whatever they call it, right? Yeah.
But
that's cool. You got a skiff?
Yeah, a little skiff. But like when you start doing like just straight land base, you always want to be able to do more. And like the tournament like world is completely different. I just fished the trash can slam.
Okay.
And like that's the second year I've fished it. That's the second actual like offshore tournament I've ever done. All the other tournaments, the first ever tournament I did was a little bass tournament in like 2016.
Okay.
I was the only girl in the entire tournament, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. But then after a while, I was like, I need to get out there. Like I need to do more. Like I always wanted to know, because I don't know, my dad always says I'm pretty lucky. I caught a sawfish the first time I went to the pier by myself. And I came home and I was like, look at what I caught. He goes, there's no way. And I was like, yeah, you know it. So
that's great.
So everybody's like, Emily, you need to do tournaments. But like, so I've been trying to learn and get out there and actually do stuff. But since I don't have a boat, it's a little hard. And
Okay. Are you doing a lot of offshore fishing now?
No.
You're not? Okay.
I don't get a lot of...
Do you like it?
I do.
Offshore fishing?
I do.
You prefer like inshore?
I prefer fishing from the beach just because it's what I've always done, obviously. But I'm definitely trying to learn, because there's always more to learn, and you always need to know everything. So it's like, I definitely want to see that side of it. But trying, like, I have a hard time like being like, hey, can I come fish with you on your boat? So I'm actually gonna go fish.
People,
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, we could have no problem getting you on a boat. That's not a big deal.
I promised Emily I would take her fishing for not record fishing, but for the club, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you hold 72 world records. I'm pretty sure if I open my mouth to any of the captains that we know, you're going to be welcomed with open arms.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know your way around a fishing rod. So.
I mean, I would like to think so, but I know like definitely offshore fishing, that's something I need to learn more. And the last tournament I just did, we were fishing with some really nice kids, and they're all very welcoming, and they know that like they always say, like you're not going to learn unless you try for the first time. So it's just something that I'm going to have to do more, and that's why I'm trying to do more tournaments, just to get out there and actually have some fun with it.
Okay.
So yeah, I had some nice fun on Saturday in that tournament.
What do we need to do? What do I need to take?
Summer's coming. Listen, summer's coming. There's some meat fish tournaments. I'm going to get you on a few of those boats.
I'd love to.
Yeah. All right. Then that's all you need to say. We're going to make that happen. We're going to make that happen.
I'm supposed to take you out soon, right?
Yeah,
What,
apparently.
And what do we need to?
He keeps telling me that we're busy. So I'm a part of the IWFA, the International Women's Fishing Association.
Sure. They just had a big meeting recently, didn't they?
Our award ceremony.
Did you go?
Yeah, I was there. Unfortunately, I didn't win any awards. That was my first year as an adult.
Okay.
I got absolutely
Adulting is
slaughtered.
hard. That's what they say, right? The game changes.
Those ladies were not playing around.
Nope.
At the last award ceremony when I was a junior, one of the ladies that announced me, she was like, "You better watch out. She's going to be an adult next year. She's coming after you." And I think that's what did it for me.
Oh, no.
She those old ladies looked at me and they were like, "Nah, she's going
throw
down.
down.
She's going down." So this year, that's why I haven't been doing the records, because I'm like, I'm not playing. So I told Zach, I was like, so they do it by points. So like each fish is like a different point, and then based off the line you use is also more points. So they like multiply it and whatever. So the one I'm going for is a crown and shield, and that's like the most points for each species. It's like the overall points. So I told Zach, I was like, we need to go out and catch.
So basically, you're telling me that the one you're going after is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. What are we
Let's
doing?
go. All right.
So I told Zach, I was like, we need to go offshore and catch like little triple tail in the weed lines on fly rods. I was like, that's what I need.
Okay.
Because right now I've been fishing that same little marina for little tiny amberjacks on a fly rod.
Okay.
And on like the plug rod with like micro hooks that are for fly tying.
Zach, she's so young.
No, I'm gonna.
Right, and she's so accomplished already, and she's got her head and heart in the right place. The world is your oyster. I'm telling you, because I'm already foreseeing all the different types of worldly fishing that you're going to do in your lifetime. I mean, I see like fly on sale in Guatemala, the Costa Rica roosters, the whole thing. Like,
What?
Weren't you doing the Tropic Star thing, or is that not?
Yeah, so I was going to, but then they had some business to take care of. So I was actually going to go on an internship down to Tropic Star Lodge, but that might be happening a different summer. But they were like fully like, I need you down here. You need to get on some of these boats and start doing some like mating for us.
Well, you're in the right position being with the IGFA group as well. I mean,
No, the funny thing about Emily is I would like to think I started the IGFA pretty recently. When you look at it in the grand scheme, I started in 2020, and Emily was coming into my office at like, I gotta imagine like 15 years old with like her parents.
Okay.
We're submitting junior records, and it feels like that was yesterday. And then the first day she was like helping me in my office as an actual like employee of the IGFA. I was like,
really?
This is crazy.
Yeah.
So when did you start working at the IGFA?
The day I turned 17.
Is when you started working part-time at the IGFA?
I was volunteering.
That is awesome.
For like 2 years before, and then when I turned 17, they were like, "We're hiring you because we legally can't." I was like,
because you legally can. Is that what they said?
Yeah.
That's great.
No, we had a pretty good understanding. I know, like Lisa, the people who made that decision, as soon as we met Emily, we were like, well, she's going to be a part of the program as soon as she's available.
She asked me like 3 times. She's like, "So you want a job?" And I was like, "Well, I guess."
Yeah. Nice.
I think you're making me have a job.
Yeah, right? That's funny. It's actually, I mean, I worked in a surf shop growing up, and that's how I started. I was like just hanging out at the surf shop. And then like he would get really busy, and then I would just start helping customers, like, because he's like, I have to be in this part of the store, and like, it's like, I guess I need to hire you.
Well, you're already there, so you may as well, right?
Right, exactly. So let me say this, okay? First of all, I'm very happy that both of you are on at the same time here with me, and it's really, really cool, right? But regarding like, fishing for world records still when you're working at the IGFA, you said that you had rejected like a couple already and everything like that. Yeah. Like, is there any animosity like going on here between the two of you about that?
You would think the day that happened, like I said that pretty casually earlier, she was not happy with me the day that happened. And her dad is also like, sometimes I think her dad hates my guts because like she'll call me on his behalf and she'll be like, why is this way? Or like, why does this read this way online? And I'll be like, I'm sorry, I misspelled the name of the canal. I'll go in and change it. And she'll be like, it's not really me. It's more my dad.
Every time. He's just like, why did Zach do this? I'm like, I don't know. I'll tell him on Thursday. And he's like, he needs to fix this.
Yeah. So I hear it from both of them. But no, I mean, so the way I look at it is like from being in that office, I obviously have a pretty good knowledge of all the records that are available what to chase after and stuff too. I don't have any interest because I get so much joy out of putting other people onto records.
Okay.
My favorite part of my job is when somebody cold calls the IGFA. It could happen even after this podcast about this new junior line class caliber that we open and be like,
I mean, I'm kind of hoping someone sees this and because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah. Well, we got to get the word out. But so they'd be like, hey, I was listening to the podcast and I heard you guys have these records. Like, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go? What's the process? And I take some time, and usually people are super welcoming to the information, and I kind of lay it all out for them. And it's basically, simple steps. Like if you get this line, and if you go to, whatever your local species is, you just need to catch a fish that weighs. For example, these vacancies for IGFA rules for the world record requirements, the fish has to weigh half the line class to qualify. So if you're going after the 8-pound vacancy, the fish has to weigh at least 4 pounds to qualify. So I'll tell that to someone. They'll be like, yeah, we catch 6-pound sheepshead all the time in my canal. Great, just catch one, weigh it, and send me the line and an application and the photos, and we'll take it from there. And it's the coolest thing. Like, it's really the reason I get up in the morning. When I come in, I sit down, I get a random phone call from that same person. They say, hey, Zach, I don't even remember me. I talked to you a few weeks back, but me and my son, we went out, we did it, and we're sending the application your way. Like, it's full circle for me. And so I get just as much joy, if not more, out of that than I would if I've gone and set a record myself. Like, I've personally caught record qualifying fish, like, for example, or on my boat. Yeah, for sure. We actually had Bruce, who's our conservation director. He was on my boat. Me and him, I have this spot I fish out of Holliver, and I have this spot where it's actually like the city reef balls that are there for like diving and spearfishing and things like that. And one day I had like a bunch of people from out of town on the boat. I didn't want to like work too hard, so I just tied up the reef ball, put out chum slick, and was yellowtail fishing, catching a ton of yellowtail. And I threw out a chunk of ballyhoo on the bottom, and I caught a mutton sniper like immediately. And so that kind of like became my like easy go-to fishing spot. And I'd catch a ton of nice fish there over the course like 2-3 years. And everybody I take out that's like legit, I would say legit fishing. Like if I took Emily out, she'd be like, why are we here? This is there's got to be a better spot to fish. But I always catch I've caught massive grouper there. I've caught everything you can imagine. And Bruce caught a 31-inch mutton snapper there at that spot.
Really?
Which the length record at the time was 28 inches. The IGFA all-tackle length record. But that length record, I mentioned that earlier in the podcast, it's a conservation-based program that we're doing, so you have to release the fish.
Guess what happened?
We were actually talking, we fished this weekend, and we brought it up again, like, neither one of us had even like a second of hesitation. Like, we saw that fish in the water, and I was like, oh, that fish is dead. We're eating that mutton snapper. So we gaffed it, and we were like, and then I'm standing there looking at like the biggest mutton snapper I've ever seen in my life on the deck of my boat, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this would be the length record. And he was like, well, we're not getting that now. And I was like, yeah, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like,
right.
He's got a mount of it in his office. It was a cool fish. So like,
that's a big mutton.
Oh, it's huge. And so things like
obviously.
That. Yeah. No, things like that. Like I could, be like, oh, or, I could go get my nieces or nephews or someone be like, hey, we're going to go catch. I know how to do it. Right. But I would much rather help someone else. And I think that goes in hand in hand with like Emily's background with what she's doing with education with us. Like, it's really cool to kind of like take what we know and then impart it on like the next generation of fishing, especially I don't ever want to be viewed as like the bad guy or like a cop or police when it comes to like rules and stuff. But like, my whole goal is to get people to set records. Like, I'm not, when I'm reviewing records, like when I rejected her record,
he's not sitting in the office
being like, what can I find in Emily's record to reject it? Like, I want people to set world records. So I'm always trying to like,
you're going to be like an old man going in.
Sometimes people call me and they say, wow, you're really nice. And I'm like, thank you, but I don't know why you felt the need to say that. And they're like, I don't know. I expected some like super serious.
Yeah, it's expected to be harder.
I don't know. Sometimes he'll ask me and be like, Emily, what do you think about this? I'll walk in there. I'm like, no, decline it.
She does it a lot.
So it's her.
Yeah, it's her.
She's the bad guy.
If anything, I'm the main one.
Yeah.
So speaking of future,
sure.
Speaking of the youth and the junior anglers and all that, and then you brought up Bruce and stuff like that, conservation.
Oh yeah,
right. So where we're at with the IGFA, I always want to explain wholeheartedly to people, it's like, yes, IGFA, they take records and they keep track of everything, but they're a huge conservation organization.
Oh yeah.
I want you guys to talk about that, especially you, because I wanted to get your perspective on it, coming from someone that's younger and seeing, and you're teaching the younger kids and you're seeing the generation. I mean, are you seeing them grasping the importance of that?
So I feel like, so one of our main things that we teach during summer camp is conservation. And even during our clinics, we also touch on it because obviously it's a really important part. If you don't have that, you don't have fishing. And I feel like the generation, like now, I feel like is kind of lacking, like the teenagers especially. They're kind of in their own little world that they definitely need some guidance But the kids that I've come across, so our age range is usually like 8 to 12-year-olds. So they're not really touched by society yet and trying to be cool kids.
Yep.
So it's not like they're trying to like show off. I feel like when they start showing off is when they kind of start doing things that start harming.
The fresh clay that can be molded, right?
Yeah. So the little kids, that's where we need to start pushing the conservation. And I feel like that's what people need to pay attention and focus on more instead of just being like, oh, we're fishing. I feel like especially like captains and stuff, you could just mention it. Like if you pick up like a bag out of the water, just be like, oh, this is why we're doing this, because we need to save our like environment.
Yeah, and you can film it and be a Starbright do-gooder
Exactly.
of the week award and get a whole bucket full of Starbright products at the same time. So there's incentive.
But they're like definitely the younger kids, especially like the juniors and stuff, they're definitely moldable. So it's definitely something that needs to be like focused on.
One of the cool things that our education department does, which you should definitely explain, because you can explain better than I have. I've only done it with you. We have this passports to fishing program that we do for our education.
Passports to fishing?
Passports to fishing. So it's an international program.
Okay.
So the concept is that everything that you would need to teach kids how to fish is in one place, in one box. And so we could ship it around the globe. I don't want to throw out numbers because I don't know them. I don't want to get them wrong.
I got the number.
All right, go ahead. Then you can take it away.
Our yearly goal that we've been shooting for, we're at 250,000 kids. But in the grand scheme of actual passport kids, I think the passport kids alone is at 100,000 kids that we've reached.
Okay.
Roughly.
Do you know how many countries? That's a big one.
And what does this program do?
Okay, so our fishing clinics that we do in Florida, it's just like a day clinic that we do. And we have like 4 stations or 5 stations. So it'll be like tackle, casting and safety, conservation, stewardship, and like knot tying. We shove all of that into a box. Everything you'll need, the hooks, the taco demo kit, we give them rods, tackle, everything. We give them everything they could possibly need, shove it into a box, and we ship it around the world.
Okay.
They then take that and we give them all the information they need to put and use that stuff and use it and put on clinics.
Yeah, and it's the concept is once they have it and once they understand how to teach it, they can continually teach it over and over again. So it's multiple generations, but multiple age groups. It's not just a one and done kind of deal. Okay. And it's through the help of our IGFA representatives. We have a lot of representatives from a ton of different countries around the globe. We have a big international reach, obviously being International Gamefish Association. So a rep will get in touch with our education department and say, hey, I work with this local fishing club. I could be anywhere in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And we want to teach kids how to fish. We have a group from a school that's coming. What do? We send them the passport. We kind of give them a quick training or, just a run through of how to teach the program. And then it's hands off from that point forward. Emily, I've worked with her. We've done some passports to fishing. The education team has a grant from the National Park Service to go around the country. Cool. And I think they're going to Colorado tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to Colorado
tomorrow? Not me.
Okay.
You were just somewhere there, and you're going somewhere. I'd imagine coming up, right?
Yeah. So this summer, obviously, Colorado. We'll be going to Michigan, Washington, South Dakota. We'll be heading back to Gulf Island, I'm pretty sure, and Cape Lookout.
We're in Colorado.
So they're just
Carbondale.
No, they're just west of Denver.
Yeah.
Estes is the name.
Yeah, it'll be in Estes.
But so
that's basically like river.
Yeah, so they teach kids how to fly out.
We'll be right at the Rocky Mountain, like National Park. So all of those ones that we get sent to are at the actual national park. But what we're doing there this time is we also work with this organization, Fish and Feathers. They're like little interns that get sent to all of the national parks. So we go there, train the interns how to actually do everything, and then they get shipped out to all these different national parks. So that's what they're going up to there to do.
And that model can be taken, like I said, it's the same thing that they're doing at a national park is the same thing that's getting taught in
everywhere.
Puerto Rico, Malaysia, anywhere around the world.
And
awesome.
we do it in all different languages and everything. So when we ship out the boxes, it can be in whatever language they need it.
And it's really cool. That's
a pretty cool feature too. Yeah, that's a great program.
I've stepped into it as obviously the IGFA, all of our departments are interconnected. We all work together, but my angler rec day-to-day doesn't really coincide with the education day-to-day too much. But they've been like, hey, Zach, we need another person to come on this trip with us. And I've stepped into one of the tables. So there's stations. There's five stations, right? So I've stepped in the conservation station before. And it's really cool. As someone who, I obviously have the background in it, but I thought about what if I didn't really have the background? It really allows you to kind of impart the core values. So make sure anything you bring in, you take back out, make sure you collect your fishing line and dispose of it, because this is what can happen if it's, left out. It'll last this many years, things like that. And then from a catch and release standpoint, we teach them how to use a dehooker,
Yep.
which I think is a really cool thing.
And we also teach them about like how long you should hold the fish out of the water, to not let put them on the floor because of the slime. We teach the importance of the slime.
And
so
it goes even deeper.
Try to keep fish wet.
Yeah.
The cool I think I really liked, especially from a guy who's making sure kids are doing records the right way and send stuff in. They create like a how to follow your local state regulations or whatever your local government regulations are. So it'll be like, oh, the season is from May 1st to August 30th, and the fish needs to be 12 inches long. And you'll have a fish like a fake fish there, and you'll be like, measure this fish. And they put the measure tape over it, and it's like 10.5 inches long, and they'll be like, can you keep this fish between this day and this day? And some of the kids, the goal is obviously to teach them, so they'll be like, yes, I can, because it's after May 1st, and you'll be like, that is correct, but it's less than 12 inches, which is they'll tell you, so can you keep it? And they're like, oh no, I guess I can't. So it's a great program, and it's continuing to grow. Like it's really on an upward trajectory. I mean, they've done a great job. I think it's 2018 is when they founded it.
Okay, that's great. I'd like to promote that more here on the show too.
Yeah.
So we'll keep talking about it.
I could send you a kit, and you can.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great if I had a kit here at the table, and that'd be awesome. Because I'd love to show that I'm proud of that. That's good.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, but it's always when you focus on kids and conservation, proper education, everything like that's something we always want to promote here for obvious reasons. So,
but our conservation department goes deeper than that too. I mean, we have our IGFA Great Marlin Race, which is such a cool concept. It's our billfish satellite tagging program. Just in my short time, again, it's not something I've worked directly hands-on with, but I'm now going to a lot of these tournaments, and I'm working with a lot of these teams that are fishing these tournament circuits, and they're the ones that are having the best opportunity to catch blue marlin and white marlin that are taggable fish, the right size, the people we trust. And some of the data is insane. I mean, so there's two stories that I always like to tell. There was one blue marlin, I'm pretty sure it's tagged off the Bahamas, or it might have been North Carolina, I think maybe at the Big Rock. And the tag usually stays on the fish. The goal's from like 180 to 240 days. It's constantly collecting data, and it's satellite tag. So once it pops off, it's able to transmit that data back to us. You can see it's down to, I want to say 60-mile radius is like how narrow it is, which, wouldn't seem that close. But when you talk about the travel, so this marlin went from North Carolina all the way up to Nova Scotia, over to Portugal, and then popped up 240 days later off the coast of Angola, like Western Africa.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me as a kid growing up fishing for these fish. Like I grew up leaving from New Jersey.
They don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and you catch same thing with like tunas, things like, you're like, oh, this fish is here right now, but you don't think like, oh, well, in 6 months this fish is going to be off the coast of Africa. And the other cool one is they tagged 3 white marlin in the same place. Off of Capcana and Dominican. It's the same time. It was, within 2 hours of themselves, they tagged all 3 of these white marlin. And you'd assume a school of fish, especially white marlin, their school and fish would travel together. All 3 of those whites went in completely different directions. One went to the Gulf, one went south to Brazil, and the other one went up to Nova Scotia. So and there's so much to learn from that. And we're really, still, I mean, we've been doing that program for a pretty long time now, but there's so much more that we're going to find out as we continue to do it. And we're the worldwide leaders right now in that level of sat tagging, especially for billfish.
Yeah, that's
right. So yeah, like I said, it goes from that high level, super science down to imparting the wisdom and knowledge onto the next generation. We're encompassing that whole gamut.
Yeah, 100%. That's outstanding. Let me ask you, curious.
What's up?
Of all the records you have, and Lord knows there are many.
This is my favorite question.
What's your favorite one?
Everybody always wants to ask.
They want to know, right? So inquiring minds want to know. So does our audience.
Okay, so my answer is always, they're like my kids. So it's not just like, I mean, I am a record chaser. So like when you put it in the grand scheme, it's like Emily caught 72 world records. Like you have to have a favorite. But like you put so much time and effort into all of them. It's so hard to be like, well, this one's the best. Because there's a story to every single one of them that we could sit down and be like, well, this is why I like this one. But the one that like put the most effort in was the black-tip shark. She gave me a rough time to try and do. We knew we were catching 100-pound blacktips off the beach, but it was like the logistics of it. How do you weigh a 100-pound blacktip that you're then gonna release? That poses a little bit of a task when it's just you and your dad on the beach. So we had to come up with an idea. So I was talking to Adrian about it actually, and I was like, Adrian, what do I do? Like, I don't know how to weigh a shark. like in an ethical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, hold on. So I got in touch with the guy that worked at Frable, and they gave me a muskie net, like a giant muskie sling.
Interesting.
It was a huge sling. So then we tried putting the shark into a muskie sling, and it took like 5 sharks. Because my dad would like get frustrated and the shark would be thrashing, and he's like, it's not gonna work. So we went through like 5 different sharks that were over 100 pounds, and then I finally brought somebody else out there with us fishing, one of my good buddies, and he actually that was the day that we got it, because we had him and my dad holding up the shark, and the shark's like barely off the floor, her like tail is like barely dragging, but I was like, we're done. I was like, I'm never touching that record again, trying to weigh sharks on the beach. I was like, this is insane.
But you got it.
We finally got it.
Right.
She was 101 pounds.
Wow.
I was like,
That was actually the first record I ever did for Emily when I first started. Yeah, actually, I'd been doing it before I got there, but that was the first record I ever reviewed.
I was like, this is insane. And everybody I tell, I'm like, yeah, I got a black tip shark. And they're like, oh, like on a boat? And I was like, no.
Off the beach.
Off the beach. Don't know what idea that was, but...
Another cool part about Emily, which I hope is correct because I'm getting ready to say, you've released every record you've put, right?
So every single record...
that's a good...
Every record was released besides the Jack Crevel, the 40-pounder. He died. Which is also another thing that I'm really intrigued about, is Jack Crevels have a weird tendency to have seizures and die, especially the larger ones, because they have really large calcium deposits. So there's actually a whole study that's been done on it, is they have a tilly bone, and there's no research besides one document that's been done. So like when you fillet a fish, you know that they got their spines, they got the little like other little bones that go out from the spine, like it's what a fish looks like. Well, I cut up the 40-pound jack, and there's just this massive bone just like sitting there, and I was like, that shouldn't be there. That's not what a fish looks like. So I contacted FWC, and they're like, oh, that's the tilly bone. And I was like, a what?
Okay.
They're like, oh, so when the jacks eat too much calcium, it just extends onto there. But I've now been doing like every jack that we've been filleting, they now have more calcium deposits on the actual spine. So instead of it just being like normal little spines, they're like extending and pushing their organs into like special little pockets. So I believe that the actual like bone and calcium deposits is putting too much pressure on their organs. So when they're under stress, they just seize.
So they're going to end up calling that the Hanzlik syndrome.
Yeah,
once you figure that out, you're going to be able to put your name on it.
I can't verify any of that.
So a couple of things here, right? A, I love that you were curious enough about that to actually call the FWC and get to the bottom of that.
That's what makes her
awesome. I contact them so much. Yeah, they're probably so tired of me.
It's her again. Just want to do my job and go home.
We joke about that's why they don't pull me over to check for my license. They see me and they're like, speed up, go faster, don't talk to her.
So my question, what's your favorite one and all that, like kind of segues me into a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, or at least most of the people that I like. That I think know their way around angling and fish and all that. Like, what's your one that got away? To both of you.
I have like, what's my favorite catch and all that stuff. I mean,
no. Everyone's got one.
So
trust me, everyone's got one.
I have 2 mystery fish.
Okay.
So I'll make them short and sweet. I was fishing the pier one day.
Take your time.
I was using a pilchard, about yay big.
Mm-hmm.
I was casting them out for tarpon, jacks, whatever on the pier. Straight mono. Probably like 50 pounds. It starts like taking line. And I'm like, okay, it's probably a nice tarpon. So we're expecting it to like head out to the buoy and jump. It starts stripping me all the way to the buoy that's like 500 yards out, because that's where the boats can go. Like they can't come inside the buoy. And right before it gets to the buoy, like a telephone pole size cuda skies. And everybody's like, Emily, it wasn't a cuda. I'm like, I swear to you, it was a cuda. And they're like, no, it's a tarpon. I was like, tarpon, do a little shake and dive. He went straight up.
Torpedo.
And went right down. And I was like, that's not a tarpon. I can promise you it wasn't. So to this day, no idea, because he hit the buoy and popped me off right after he jumped. And then I was fishing.
And it was huge.
It was huge. Like huge. Like literally the size of like a telephone pole. Like,
right.
It was insane. Then I was fishing that marina. My magic marina that has...
I've yet to see it, but I heard...
holds so many fish.
And you're not going to divulge.
I don't know. It's my secret marina. I have so many fish there. I can't give it up.
Follow you.
So we fish carcasses because like the snook and jack eat the
Okay.
carcasses. So I was fishing the carcass one time and craziest thing. He starts heading out the marina. And just randomly, he just rises. This fin comes up that was like 2 foot tall. And the hook just pulls out and he sunk. I didn't see him. All I saw was a fin.
Really?
It was the largest fin I've ever seen.
Wasn't a shark.
It wasn't a shark. It had like, it looked like one of the like tarpon fins, but it wasn't a tarpon. It was the weirdest.
Really?
If it was a tarpon, the thing was 300 pounds. It was insane. My dad's like, no, it's definitely a shark. I'm like, I don't know.
It had spines in the dorsal. It wasn't a shark.
I was
right?
like,
It wasn't a flat.
I don't know.
bush. All right.
Mine's, you made me, I should think about it ever since she's been talking. I was getting ready to say, like, I've caught most of my cool story fish. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have one, but I still think this is a really cool story. Like, I don't regret
I've
this.
caught them all.
Yeah.
No, I don't have one.
Zach's too good.
So, like, I don't regret.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
So I'd like to view myself as a fisherman, but I also like to view myself as a captain, like 50-50. I take a lot of pride in like running my own boat, and putting people on my boat on fish. Like that's a big part of why I do what I do. I love boats and boating just as much as I love fishing. And so the backstory is I came down here in 2018 to go to grad school at University of Miami. I got my master's in aquaculture.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was done with that program, I got my degree. I was looking for work. COVID hit, like it was as soon as I graduated. And I was looking for a new building to move into and everything. So I found this apartment that had a slip space behind it. And this is going way back, but for my 16th birthday, my parents were like, you know, hey, I went to boarding school for high school, so I lived at school. So I didn't need, obviously, to commute every single day to school. Or would you like a car for your 16th birthday? That's what most kids get. Or would you like a boat? You know, like we'll get you a small center console or something to start messing around with it. I was like, yes, 100% boat. I don't need to learn. I didn't even learn how to drive till I was 18, and I got my boating license as soon as I turned 16. Like that was the priority for me. So I had a 21-foot center console with like a little Yamaha 150, and I took it all over New Jersey. I used to go crabbing up there. It's like a big thing you do in South Jersey. We'd go catch blue crabs in the back. So I'd be in like 2 inches or 2 feet of mud with this boat catching crabs and stuff. I brought it down here. I got the place with the slip behind it, and it was COVID. So really for 4 or 5 months, I just fished almost every day. You know, everything was shut down, and I had the access to the boat was in the water. I didn't have to put it on a trailer or anything. So I just went. July. So this would have been July 2020. I had a couple friends, like local friends I went to grad school with, brought in a friend of a friend. We all went out. It's kind of like an afternoon right out of Holliver. So we left maybe like 4, and had to stop and get gas first at the Holliver Marine Center there. And as I'm filling up, like we were just going to troll like daisy chains and stuff for blackfin and mahi. It was, you know, that time of year. And this dad pulled up behind us and was like, I have 2 ballyhoo. Do you want them? Like, I'm done fishing. I was like, no, I'm fine, man. The kid that came with us was like, no, I'll take him. We'll pull him. I was like, all right, take the ballyhoo. So he took the ballyhoo. And I had all my, you know, standard trolling gear set up. And so I didn't have any extra rods. And this kid was like, I want to put out like an islander with a ballyhoo, just in case we have like a big dolphin or anything come through. And I was like, sure, go crazy. What are you going to put it on? He was like, I have this jigging rod. It was like a super light jigging rod with braid on it and stuff. So he puts it out and we're trolling around, and I'm like 700 feet of water off of Holliver, like on the north side. So like towards Sunny Isles. And I look back and I just see the rod, that rod that had that ballyhoo on it. Again, like super flimsy, you imagine a jigging rod, just got smacked, like go down almost like rod tip at the thing, but it popped back up. And I was like, what the hell? And I grew up doing some bill fishing in New Jersey. Like I had some background. The kids I were with were all like kite fishermen. They weren't trolling fishermen. So I looked at the back of the boat, and like behind this little chugger that we had out there with the ballyhoo was just a bill, like whacking. Not a sailfish bill, like definitely a marlin.
Right.
I thought maybe a white just because that's what I'm used to. And so I just ran over and I just picked up the rod, dumped it, and I started feeding the fish, and I handed the kid, and I was like, wait for like 15, 20 seconds and engage it. And he's like, okay. So he's panicking. I said, hit it now. So he hit it real tight. And this, I'd say like 150, like a small fish, pound blue, just skyrockets out of the water. It starts going crazy. And so I reeled in the rest of the spread. And I put him up on the bow, and we're chasing this fish for like 2-3 minutes. It's given us the full show. Which is like, for me as a kid, that I really only had a boat in Florida for like 4 months at that point.
Right.
It's like, this is the coolest thing ever. And the fish turns and starts coming right back towards us. And like, again, you grew up bill fishing, you understand, like keep pressure on the fish, all that stuff. This kid ain't not done that before. So I'm screaming like, reel. And the kid's reeling. And the blue marlin passes us Like I'm driving towards it, comes past us, and I watch the hook, this little island, just fly out of its mouth, like mid jump, right next to me, and it goes away.
No.
But I said, what reason why I don't view that's a big thing? Like the kid was like devastated, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh my god. I was like, dude, on that rod, like we would have been on that fish for like that fish went down. It would have been like it was like 7 o'clock at night. I was like,
Yeah. all night.
I'm not out here fighting the fish all night. That's the best case scenario. Like we got to see it, we hooked it.
I had a situation like that with a huge marlin. It was a Memorial Day, and I was in my young 20s, and yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, I was like,
I mean, it was an old Penn senator. We were trolling from Mahi. We were actually hanging out with friends later that day. We were fishing in the morning for a couple hours. So let's troll some lines, whatever, like that. As there was a monster marlin. I mean, it was a big one, and it was just started running away. And my buddy's like, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "Nothing." What am I gonna do? Like this little, and it just started. We had 20-pound test.
I honestly, even if he would have broken off, the fact that I saw the hook, like I watched it fly out of its mouth, like within eyesight of me, I was like, wow. But my dad always messes with me because like I'll call him up and like I'm not necessarily that sentimental of a guy, sort of, but I call him up all the time, and whenever something cool happens like that, and I always hit him with something. And I called him, and he's like, "How was your day out there?" And I was like, "We hooked a blue." And he was like, "Shark?" And I was like, "No, blue marlin."
Yeah.
He's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, this boat this time last year was crabbing in 2 feet of mud in New Jersey, and now it's offshore catching blue marlin in Miami.
Awesome.
Like, look at how far we've come." And he was like, "Yeah, we put it that way. It's pretty cool."
Nice.
And since I started pushing that boat, I think that was the first thing that got like the idea in his head that I was pushing that boat a little too far, because the next year I sold that boat, he sold his boat in New Jersey, and we both went in on, we have a 29 Jupiter now, and now it makes a lot more sense. If
I see the look in her eyes. She's like, "Yeah, I got to skip. I'm going to catch some marlin on that."
She could do it though. Honestly, if I'm going to bet my money on anybody, it's her. That she'd be the person that would.
For sure.
Next thing you know, you're going to see a video of me going out in Jupiter Inlet and a 14-foot skip.
Yeah, out of Jupiter Inlet, he's going to get bitten in half by a shark.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
So listen, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. Had a ball.
Yeah,
blast.
Had a blast.
You guys have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah? We got to do it again.
I was going to say, everyone wants to come back.
Yeah, we got to do it again.
We have plenty to talk about. Bring a whole passport kit. Show everybody how to take care of their
Come
records.
back for a part 2. You bring a passport kit. We'll talk all through. We all these programs to talk about, all these things to do, and 100%.
Actually explain how to actually get a record. So
I got to tell you, though. Hold on a second. You want to explain how you get a record?
I would love to hear her explanation.
That would be great. Actually, I didn't even think of that.
There's so many chefs, though.
So to get to registering a world record?
I mean, a good amount that if you want in detail.
I can run through it in 1 minute.
We can do brief.
You give me your cliff as someone who's done it 72 plus times.
Do line class record. How you gotta target it. So what I tell everybody is your first step is always to stack every reel you have with whatever tournament line that you're going to put in it. Because everybody's like, "Oh, I'm just going to go put braid on this one rod." Don't do it. Don't do it. Always put tournament in every reel you have.
You don't like braid. Braid's not good.
That's not even
the issue. I've heard the exact opposite is what it do.
So what's up with the mono versus braid thing when it comes to records?
So sorry about that, braid the mic. So the with IGFA world records, your line class, and so she's talking about line class world records, like, you're trying to set a specific line class, is the 16.5 feet or 5 meters immediately following your leader. So really, realistically, you only need 20 to 30 feet. I say that, I always like people to use more than what's required. So like 20 to 30 feet of your line class that you're chasing after, and the rest of your reel can be braid. So what a lot of record chasers like to do is they'll get
You think that's unethical?
Well, no, it's
She's like nodding her head no. She's looking at me like,
there's no reason why that. So what most people do, they'll have one spinning reel filled with like, whatever 30-pound braid, and then they'll just put, if they want to go to the 4-pound record, they'll put 30 feet of 4-pound on top, catch the fish, cut it off, put another section of 30 foot of 6-pound, catch fish, cut it off. But you're telling me that's not what you do.
Almost like tippet style.
Absolutely not. I'm committed. I got 8 rods. I got a whole setup of every single line class you could possibly have. They're completely filled with what it is. Because the thing is, if like you
get excited like every single time you get a world record.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you like the same feeling like every time.
Yeah.
It's like an addiction.
Especially because they're like different.
Yeah, that's cool.
Stoked about it. So I like to do just straight tournament. I mean, like he said, that still works, but like you definitely have to have that tournament line. You don't want to be messing around with having just straight braid and be like, well, I hope it doesn't overtest. So then once you got your fish on, that's when it becomes the actual issue. There's a million rules. There's so many rules that if you're doing records, you need to read them because nobody can tell you. You need to get it through your head and read it 20 million
If you
times.
call into the IGFA, I will tell you that I'm here.
That also, he'll tell you all of them if you want to talk to somebody. But once you know all the record or all the rules to catch, like nobody can touch you. You can't touch the rod on anything.
Right.
Like your net has to be a certain length. The leader has to be a
But
certain
when
length.
you think you got it,
When you think you got it,
what do you got to email Zach?
you have to be complete. Well, I have a whole little bag. I carry around a little tote with me,
You're ready.
which
Yeah,
I
this is
have.
the inside information.
Okay.
I got a little tote. It's a bag about yay big. I have my measuring tape in it, the certified IGFA one. It's in there. I have a certified Rapala scale. That I have my like 50-pound test one, or my 50-pound one and like 100-pound. But you really don't need that unless you're doing like saltwater fish.
Okay.
So you just need to have your certified scale, which you can send to us, and have it certified. Just make sure that it actually works properly, or you can send it in with your record. But that's kind of iffy because if it's not if it is a scale that doesn't work great, then you're gonna lose the record because the scale's not working. So that's
Even if it's off just a little bit.
So we allow for 1 degree of variation when we certify scales. I would say like 90, maybe even like close to 95% of the time your scale is going to be accurate.
Okay.
But what she's saying is there's no reason to risk it when you send it to us, especially if you're local in South Florida. It's super easy. But even if you're shipping it from internationally, we'll do it the same week it comes in and ship it back to you, and it's good for a full year. So it's just a good peace of mind.
Yeah.
So when you
have
think
to
you
worry
got a
about it.
fish and you're ready, what do you do?
So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to weigh your fish.
Yeah.
Make sure you weigh it. A lot of people like to have a sling, so you're just not dangling a fish by their gill plate. The sling is obviously more ethical for the fish. So you want to get a picture of it. I like to take pictures of everything. Zach says that you don't need all the pictures.
There's two different kind of record submitters, right? So there's people like Emily that take individual pictures of each process. So
everything.
the four photos we require are of the angler with the fish, the rod and reel that was used to catch the fish, the scale the fish was weighed on, and then a copy of the scale certification.
Okay.
The people that have been doing it for a while have it down to the science where they put all 4 of those things in one picture.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a picture of them with the rod in one hand, the scale in the other, scale certification sticker on the scale, and the fish. So it's just one picture that they send them with the application. There's not to say that, there's one way doing it better than the other. But
those are guys that are like in it. They're like
Yeah.
baseball card collectors. Like
Yeah.
they know exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's easier to keep everything in one bag so you can pull it all out and check it off as you do it.
Okay.
So
Who are the other people?
I would say that, like, I don't name drop, but like Roberta does that. Roberta just sends one picture of like everything all in one, which I think is pretty cool.
So, but then there's other people that do all of each. individual.
Emily.
So like what I would do is normally my dad, he'll weigh the fish and I'll take a picture of him weighing the fish and then I'll have him measure out the fish. So you have to get the length of it and the girth. I'd also take a picture of that. And then I take a picture of me with the fish and the rod leaning on me. Because then that gets both the rod and the fish.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the money shot that you want to.
You're just trying to cover all bases.
Because the whole thing is, if you have a picture of everything, there's no questions. If he goes, Emily, what was your leader, or what was the length of the fish? Do you have a picture of it? It's not going to be, I don't have that.
So you're going to upload this to the site, or you email it?
So she's traditional. She will. Well, actually, recently you started using. Yeah. So we have 2. You can hand in a traditional paper copy application, or you can upload everything. We have an online application.
You do work there.
Yeah. So I just bring it to you.
Yeah.
But she has started using the online application, which is cool because it allows you to upload the photos. Like if you're doing it on your phone, it's super easy.
Yeah, you just submit it all there.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. And then you wait.
And then you wait.
Yeah, so then the process, to pick up that process, so like let's say I show up to work on a Monday and I check my email and it's like, oh, Emily caught another record again.
He's going to look at it, ignore it.
No, so application comes in, we process it, and it shows it as pending on our website. I have to go through everything, like I have to measure the leader, make sure it's the right length, make sure all the photos are accounted for, make sure the species is the correct species, and then I test the line.
Yeah, and here it takes a little while to get to your.
It's typically like
a lot of things.
Yeah, it's not just Emily that's submitting records.
Right.
We typically get like,
right?
I'd say we get probably close to like 10 to 15 applications a week, give or take, depending on, and so.
And each one you give
it's thorough. It's thorough review, and then not only myself. So Logan just started working with us. So I actually moved up from being the person that's typing all the information, which has been fantastic because I'd like to say there's been probably at least in the modern age, like 7 or 8 world record coordinators, people that are doing the world records. And I bet if you asked all of them, like how long to just take doing the constant like data entry before you lose your mind, and they probably stay close to like 4 to 5 years. So I was just at that point where it's like you can only enter Emily's grass carp so many times before you start to be like,
before you don't want to work there anymore.
Going crazy. No, do not say that. But
so to keep it.
So the process is Logan would enter the information in, he'd hand it to me, I give my full review of the application, make sure everything's right, I sign off for it, and then the final person that has the final say of approval is Jason, our president, and he gives the final. And we do it in boxes and batches. So if 30 come in over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, he gets a box of 30. We go through. It probably takes I'd like it to be like 4 to 5 weeks. It's usually closer to 5 to 6 from the time we get it to the time it's approved. But the process back in the day before technology would take like 5 to 6 months. So we've really shortened it down in terms of when you send it to us versus when you're getting a certificate at your door.
All right, listen.
What do you do with your certificates?
What do you mean?
You have so many. You have 72 world records.
Okay, so I have an office that I like to say is my office inside of the house that I still live in with my parents. They say it's not my office, but my name is literally on the wall. There's about 50 certificates that are framed and up on this wall.
Wow.
And then I have a wall that has like the shelves with like my trophies that I've won.
Can you do me a favor?
Take a picture of it?
Yeah, and text that to me, please.
I wasn't sending her up. I genuinely want to know what you do.
So,
I want to see this.
But then I ran out of wall room, so the rest of them are just in a folder in like the desk.
I just want one. I always said if I get one, I would tattoo it on me.
I can help you out. You know the right guy. Give me a call. I would love to help you catch a record fish.
Maybe I'll talk about this one over here. Exactly. If you know what you should do, there's this one that needs to get satisfied.
Yeah,
right.
That's basically it.
Yeah,
we'll help you out.
All right, and they'll put like some kind of carp tattoo on my arm.
Straight mullet.
Well, I mean, technically, there's a lot of cichlid records, like all tackle records, but they're really small. So I mean, you could just get like a really giant cichlid on your back.
I love it. That would be cichlid.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we're gonna go,
Okay.
But follow IGFA, support IGFA.
Yeah.
Right. Follow you guys on your social medias. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are they?
Emily Hanzlik Outdoors is everything. My website, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Yeah, I'm going to be, great for the brand, and I'm just going to say follow IGFA if that's all accounts.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Listen, thank you guys so much.
Of course, thank you
for coming and hanging out with me. I mean it. We got to do this again. I want this to be. Let's do this like a quarterly thing.
You just let us know.
The IGFA update.
We'll swing back.
We have so much stuff that we always talk about.
All right, good. Then we're gonna make that happen.
Beautiful.
All right, cool. We're gonna end this like we always do. Your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best at the end of the day, just like God do the rest. And do not forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected by water. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
We out.